Hello and welcome to the Women's Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. It was business as usual in the SWPL as the top 5 sides all managed to grab a win. With attention now turning to cup football, we decided to catch up with ex-Glasgow City player Suzanne Lappin. She spoke to Alison McConnell all about Glasgow City's title hopes this year. Hi Suzanne, welcome to the Women's Football Show on PLZ Soccer. Delighted to have you with us. So first of all, your former team sitting proudly at the top of the SWPL. What's your thoughts? Do you think they can stay there over the course?
Yeah, I don't see why not, to be honest. It might have surprised a few, but it probably hasn't surprised me, if I'm honest. Just knowing the makeup of the team, their desire to always be at the top. I think obviously this season, Glasgow City have not had, the demands of maybe previous seasons, particularly the Champions League, where you're travelling and competing with a busy schedule. They haven't had that. They've been able to get their heads down, focus on themselves, drive the standards that they want within the club. I think they've recruited well as well. I think when you compare them this season to last season, that difference in squad depth. Even looking at them yesterday when I was commentating in the game, the amount of people on the sidelines not fit as well, that make it such an impact. So, yeah, I think they've started really strongly, and I think they'll just keep their heads down, keep working hard, and see where it takes them.
One of your former teammates, of course, going back into the dugout this weekend. We heard that Leanne will go back and take up that position vacated by Scott Booth, who's gone up to Aberdeen. But how important a move is that for Glasgow City? Leanne obviously understands the nature of the club, the demands of the club, and part of the DNA of being successful at Glasgow City.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's an amazing move for Leanne. She obviously was at Motherwell, went there, has progressed a lot, has developed, as a coach. I think herself she would speak highly of the setup at Motherwell and the platform they've gave her. I think it's a really good opportunity for her to go and do that now in a professional environment. I feel slightly sorry for the players, I must admit. They were two of the moaniest players on the pitch, so I can't imagine them as coaches together. But no, joking aside, I mean, yeah, the two of them, born winners, there when I was there, part of, teams full of success. I know they hate losing. I've seen it day in, day out in training. They'll be installing it in the players there. And, I think just overall for the women's game and especially for Glasgow City as well, to have two former, players and legends of the club now involved, now leading the first team, it's massive. And it gives people, the younger players as well, some of them will, Leanne's, they'll have known about them as players and now working under them. So, I learned a lot playing alongside them. I'm sure these players will continue to thrive and develop under their leadership.
It's interesting because when Glasgow City had finished 9 points off the pace of Celtic and Rangers last term, I think there may have been a few observers who looked at it and thought, is this going to replicate, is the women's side of the game going to just duplicate the men's side? Are we going to see Celtic and Rangers dominate and everyone else maybe struggle to catch up? But what you've seen between the signings that were made on and off the park over the summer, the developments within the club at Glasgow City, you've seen a real drive to really go and recapture the title that they lost last season. Do you see them as viable title contenders this term?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I don't think I've seen anything in the opening 11 or 12 games of the season so far that makes me think they cannot sustain their challenge and be right up there. I think if you rewind maybe a couple of years ago when when Rangers first won that title and stopped Glasgow City's, run of dominance, I think a lot of people at that point thought, right, are Glasgow City going to go and win another title? They obviously came back and did so. They won't go away. Knowing, the people at the club as I do, they just won't go away. They've been the foundation of women's football for so long. They want to be at the top, as I say. It would have hurt real bad to be as far off the pace as they were last year. And I know they'll be determined to get back to the top of the women's game. And I think, their performances this season, they've been comfortable and dominant in most games. And as I say, they'll not be looking too far ahead, game by game, and just trying to make sure that they're up and around the top at the end of the season.
How important is it just having that small cushion? I know it's only a point, there's very little between the teams, but just psychologically to be in front and just to have that slim cushion, because when Glasgow City got back on top a couple of weeks back, it was the first time for way over a year that they'd been in that position.
Yeah, I think so. I mentioned it yesterday when I was talking about the football, particularly around Celtic. They've games in hand, but as a player, it's always good to be playing and have those games and have those points on the board. Yes, it's only a marginal lead at this point in time, but it gives you something to continuously hang on to and play for. I'm sure it'll swing a number of times throughout the rest of the season, but they won't want to give too much away. As I say, I've been really impressed with how they've went about their business so far this season. Real dominant performances, goals coming from all over the pitch. And yeah, I'm sure they'll just keep focusing on themselves and hope that they end up there at the end of the season.
And Bren being back to full fitness too has been hugely important for them.
Yes, she has. I remember the first time watching her actually, a year or so ago. And I think when I seen her play, I thought she's the player Glasgow City's been missing for a number of years. She just has that presence up top. She can hold it up. She can link the play. Really strong and physical. And I remember talking to Leanne after I first seen her, and I was like, yeah, she's going to be a player. And obviously she got her injury, and I think as well, her coming back into the game, it takes a little bit of the onus off the likes of Emily Whelan, who I thought was a standout for Glasgow City yesterday against Partick Thistle. I think she thrives in a wider area, and yeah, it just seems to all be clicking into place for them at the moment. We obviously know they've got Fiona Brown as well, who, obviously unfortunately get that injury. She's another superstar, and the likes of Lisa Evans coming back, as you said, they've recruited really, really well. And yeah, I think they'll be in for a really good season.
And obviously it's Cup weekend this weekend. Do you fancy that they'll have their sights on maybe one of those, an early bit of silverware coming in through the League Cup?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when I played at Glasgow City, it was non-negotiable. You win every competition you're in. That's just the way it is. It's the mindset. They won't look at that any differently. Of course, any player will tell you that the season and winning the league is the most important. It's the reward for your hard work throughout the season. The people that win the league are the best team, but the cups as well. The difference with the cups is you need to perform on the day. You need to make sure you're at your best, and knowing that they've went so long now without that piece of silverware in any form, going without any last season, they will be determined to hopefully put themselves back in the forefront of people's minds by winning the first silverware of the season.
And a fairly testing tie for them too.
Yeah, it doesn't come easy, does it? But again, as a player, you want to play against the best, so playing against Celtic, it's going to be a tough game. They know that, but again, for the women's football in this country, it's a tie that will attract many spectators, and I'm sure on the day it's always been a closely contested fixture between the two, and as I say, you need to be on your best on the day to progress.
Do you think whoever takes the win from this one draws a bit of confidence in terms of the league campaign?
I think so. It does naturally, doesn't it? If you can get success over one of your closest rivals, obviously naturally you'll get a bit of confidence in that. I think it's always been close between Celtic, Rangers, Glasgow City. See the results this season, tell you that as well. There's not much between the sides on any given day. So I think if they can manage, whoever manages to get the victory, yes, I think it will maybe give them that little bit of confidence to then go and push on.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much, Suzanne, for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the Women's Football Show.